All right, so today we're diving into one of the most heated rivalries in tech history.
Oh, yeah. Definitely one of the biggest.
The battle between Intel and AMD.
For control of the CPU market.
Yeah, it's a story that goes way beyond.
It really does go
It's
beyond.
just clock speeds and benchmarks.
For sure.
You know, it's about
It's a story.
innovation setbacks, underdog comebacks,
Underdog comebacks, that's right.
and how that constant competition shapes the technology that we use.
Every single day.
Every single day.
I think almost everyone listening has probably
Yeah,
used a computer powered by one of these giants at some point.
absolutely. I mean, everybody.
But, this isn't just about who's on top right now.
Right.
We're going back
Gotta go back.
to the mid-2000s.
Yeah.
A time when things were a little unexpected.
Yeah.
A little bit of a different landscape back then.
Yeah, most people just kind of assume Intel has always been at the top.
Yeah, they just assumed they were king of
So
things.
back then, AMD was actually giving them
Oh, absolutely.
a run for their money
They were a force to be reckoned with.
with their Athlon 64 series.
The Athlon 64.
Yeah, and they were leading in 64-bit computing, which
It's
is
huge.
a big deal.
Yeah, that was a big deal. At the
What
time.
made 64-bit such a big deal? I remember hearing about it back then,
It was one of those things, you hear about it,
but it just flew over my head.
you don't really understand what it is.
Yeah.
Think of it this way. Like you're working on a giant jigsaw puzzle,
Okay.
but you can only see like a tiny section
A tiny section at a time.
at a time. And that's kind of what 32-bit computing was like.
Okay.
It was limited.
So 64-bit blew the doors wide open,
It just opened up everything.
allowed systems to access way more memory,
Yeah.
handle much larger data sets.
Exactly, as software was getting more and more complex.
Yeah, and that was becoming more crucial as
Absolutely crucial.
things were getting more and more complex.
Exactly.
So AMD was on top,
Mm-hmm.
pushing those boundaries.
They were on a roll.
But then 2006 rolls around.
Oh, yeah.
Intel releases their Core 2 architecture,
Mhm.
and it was like the game changed.
Everything shifted.
Right.
Yeah, it was a complete shift in power.
Yeah.
I mean, not only did Core 2 just crush
Yeah.
AMD's chips,
Yeah.
just in terms of like raw performance,
Straight up performance.
it did it while sipping power,
Oh, wow.
which was a big deal for both desktops and, the emerging laptop market.
Huge for laptops.
Yeah.
I remember those Core 2 chips, man. Some of them were
Oh, yeah.
legendary.
Like thigh.
The E6600,
Oh, yeah.
26600.
Overclock them like crazy.
Overclock them like crazy, yeah, and people loved them for it.
They were awesome.
It's funny how certain pieces of tech
They really do.
just become iconic, right?
Become legendary. They really do.
But Intel's dominance,
Yeah.
it did have a downside. With AMD struggling to keep pace,
Right.
consumers had fewer choices.
Less competition.
And yeah, innovation has started to feel
Like things were slowing down.
a bit stagnant, like a little bit.
A little bit, yeah. AMD tried to fight back with its Phenom series,
Okay.
but it couldn't match Intel's
I
performance.
couldn't keep up.
And then came their ambitious bulldozer architecture in 2011.
Bulldozer, which,
Big promises.
yeah, let's just say it didn't quite live up to the hype.
It did not live up to the hype, no.
No.
So while all this was happening, though,
Right.
Intel was going through this period of rapid innovation
Oh, yeah, they were.
with new architectures seemingly every year.
It felt like every other week they were coming out with something new.
I know, is Sandy Bridge, Ivy Bridge, Haswell?
Oh, yeah. They were on a roll.
It was hard to keep up.
It was tough to keep track.
It was.
I mean, and they weren't just releasing new architectures.
Yeah.
They were also shrinking the size of transistors on their chips.
Right. They were.
It's like fitting more and more houses on that same city block.
More and more houses on that same city block.
Yeah.
So they went from, 32 nanometer?
32 nanometer down to 14.
Down to 14.
What did that mean for the average user?
Oh.
Were we just seeing numbers go up on benchmarks?
I mean, it was a bit of both, honestly.
Yeah, okay.
On paper, these smaller transistors led to massive gains in performance
Yeah.
and power efficiency.
Yeah.
But for the average user, it often felt like those gains were incremental.
So just a little bit better each time.
Like that infamous toothpaste squeeze,
The toothpaste squeeze.
where each new generation
Yeah.
was just a tiny bit better than the last.
So Intel's in the driver's seat,
Mm-hmm.
but this toothpaste squeeze, as some called it, felt like they were playing it safe a little bit.
A little bit, maybe?
Was innovation
Right.
slowing down
That's a great question.
because they didn't have real competition?
And it's one that a lot of people were asking at the time.
Yeah.
But while Intel was cruising along,
Right.
AMD was quietly working on something
Ooh.
that would shake the entire industry to its core.
Okay, so tell me, what was AMD cooking up behind the scenes?
Well, let's just say that in 2017, AMD decided to stop playing it safe
Okay.
and dropped a bombshell
Okay.
on the tech world.
Right.
Ryzen. Based on their brand new Zen architecture.
Zen architecture. Okay, so all those rumors we were talking about
All those rumors,
came true.
they are for true, and people were blown away.
People were blown away. I remember following those rumors.
I know.
It was like a detective novel. I had to know what was going to happen.
Everybody was on the edge of their seat.
What was it about Zen that got everyone so excited?
Well,
Was it just about having more cores than Intel?
it was more than just core count.
Okay.
Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
Ryzen brought more cores to the table,
Okay.
especially for the price.
Right.
But AMD knew they couldn't beat Intel in single-core performance at that point.
Okay.
So we played a different game.
Different strategy.
They focused on multi-core performance
Multi-core.
and, crucially, value.
Value. Okay, so was this when we started to see the shift? From those quad-core CPUs that felt like the standard for so long?
This is when things started to change.
Okay.
Exactly.
All right.
The Ryzen 7 1800X, their flagship at the time,
Flagship CPU.
it went head-to-head with Intel's top-tier i7
Wow.
in multi-threaded tasks,
Okay.
like video editing and rendering.
So the things that could really use those extra cores.
Exactly.
Okay.
But it cost significantly less.
Significantly less.
Yeah.
So suddenly, content creators, video editors, anybody who needed
Yeah, anybody who needed serious processing power,
had an alternative to Intel.
they had a real choice.
They had a choice.
Yeah.
So Ryzen comes out swinging,
They came out swinging.
offering more cores for less money.
Mm-hmm.
What did Intel do?
Well,
Did they just sit back and watch?
no, they did not sit back and watch.
Okay.
They definitely felt the heat.
All right.
Competition is a beautiful thing,
I think so.
right?
It is.
It forces everyone to up their game.
Yeah.
Suddenly, Intel was scrambling to respond,
Yeah. They had to do something.
and the core wars were back on.
Round two.
Yeah, round two.
So we're talking more cores, more performance, more competition.
More everything.
Was this good news for the average computer user?
Absolutely.
It was.
Yeah, it was a win for consumers.
Okay.
The Ryzen effect, it trickled down
It trickled down.
to every level of the market.
I remember shopping for laptops back then, and quad core was like,
Yeah.
you had to spend a lot of money to get a quad core.
It was top of the line.
It was top of the line. And now,
Now it's almost unheard of to have anything less than 6 cores.
less than 6. Yeah, Ryzen changed that.
They changed the game.
They changed the game.
And they didn't stop there.
Oh, yeah.
If Ryzen was the first punch,
Yeah.
Zen 2,
Yeah.
which arrived in 2019,
Hi.
was a knockout blow.
I'm non-cap below.
This time, AMD had another ace up their sleeve.
Okay. What's this?
Man.
Manufacturing.
Manufacturing,
Remember how we talked about Intel shrinking transistors?
right? Shrinking those transistors down.
Well, AMD partnered with TSMC.
A company that was leading the way in chip fabrication
Okay.
and moved to a 7-nanometer process node.
7 nanometers.
This meant even smaller transistors,
Wow.
while Intel was stuck trying to move beyond 14.
They couldn't quite get there.
Yeah, they were having trouble.
So smaller transistors meant even more power and efficiency for AMD.
Yeah, they were really pushing the limits.
What kind of impact did this have on the CPU landscape?
It was a huge shift.
Uh,
It was a huge shift. Suddenly, AMD wasn't just competing,
right.
they were winning
Winning.
in terms of performance efficiency
Okay.
and price to performance.
So they were hitting all the marks.
They were hitting all the marks, yeah.
What did Intel do about that?
Well, they weren't going down without a fight.
Okay.
Remember those incremental upgrades Intel was known for?
Right. The toothpaste squeeze?
The toothpaste squeeze?
Yeah.
Yeah, they
Yeah.
needed something much bigger than that this time.
They needed a big innovation.
Enter Alder Lake,
Alder Lake.
their 12th gen core processors.
Okay.
It was a bold move.
All right. What did they do?
They went with a hybrid architecture,
A hybrid architecture.
using a mix of performance cores,
Okay.
key cores,
Key cores got it.
and efficiency cores,
Okay.
E-cores,
E-cores. So 2 different types of cores.
on a single chip.
Oh, wow. That's interesting.
Think of it like having a team of sprinters
Sprinter.
for those bursts of speed,
Okay.
and then marathon runners
Marathon runner.
for the long haul, all working together.
So you got your fast ones and your efficient ones all working together.
Exactly.
Interesting.
It was a big change,
Okay.
aimed at getting the best of both worlds.
So high performance when you need it,
Exactly.
and then power savings when you don't.
Exactly.
So how did that work? I imagine the computer's constantly switching between these different types of cores.
Right. And that's where some clever software scheduling comes in.
Okay.
The operating
We
system
raise it out.
figures out which tasks need those powerful P cores,
Okay.
and which ones can be handled efficiently by the E cores.
The slower ones.
Yeah, it's like having a smart traffic controller,
I like that analogy.
directing the flow of data to the right place at the right time.
So Intel was throwing everything they had at AMD.
They're pulling out all the stops.
Did they manage to catch up?
They made some serious strides with Alder Lake,
Okay.
especially in raw performance.
All right.
But it was a tight race,
Okay.
and AMD wasn't standing still.
Right. Of course not. They got to respond.
They fired back with their Zen 4-based Ryzen 7000 series,
Ryzen 7000 series.
also bringing support for the latest technologies.
Right, because technology doesn't stop.
It never stops.
New stuff is always coming out.
Like DDR5 memory
Mm.
and PCI 5.0,
What do those do?
which meant even faster data transfer speeds.
Even faster.
Yeah,
So both companies were pushing the limits with new architectures and faster components.
absolutely. We're both innovating like crazy.
Did this rivalry, did it benefit anyone besides hardcore tech enthusiasts?
Absolutely. It was a win for everyone who uses a computer.
So this wasn't just for the people who were really into this stuff.
Not at all.
This was impacting everybody.
Think about those first-gen Ryzen laptops. The battery life was incredible
Compared to what
compared to what Intel was offering at the time.
Intel was offering, yeah.
And that was a direct result of AMD pushing the envelope in power efficiency,
So AMD innovated, Intel had to keep up.
forcing Intel to up their game as well.
I think we often take for granted
Yeah,
how much this competition impacts our everyday lives.
absolutely.
Faster laptops, longer battery life,
Right.
more powerful desktops for gaming and content creation. It's all driven by this constant back and forth.
This constant battle between Intel and AMD.
Yeah. And it's not just about the present.
Right.
This rivalry is shaping the future of computing.
That's the exciting part.
It is. It's exciting.
You know, who knows what's next.
Yeah. Where do we go from here?
It's hard to say for sure, but that's what makes it so exciting.
It is exciting.
From Intel's early dominance to AMD's resurgence,
It's been quite a journey.
this rivalry has been a constant source of innovation,
It has.
pushing the boundaries of what's possible in computing.
Absolutely. We've covered a lot of ground today.
We have.
From the Core 2 era to the rise of Ryzen, from the impact of manufacturing technology to the future of CPUs.
It's been a wild ride.
It has been a wild ride.
It really makes you appreciate how far we've come
Absolutely.
and how much this competition has benefited all of us.
I think so too.
Yeah.
Well, on that note, I think we've given our listeners plenty to think about.
I think so.
Hopefully this deep dive into the Intel versus AMD rivalry
Yeah.
has been informative and entertaining.
It's been a pleasure.
If you want to learn more about this epic battle for CPU supremacy,
Yeah.
we'll have some additional resources in the show notes.
Definitely check those out.
Until next time,
See you then.
keep those processors humming.